Worldwide, fertility is collapsing, but Israel is the exception. Indeed, it is set to take off in decades to come, as we will explore. In this presentation, we shall consider Israel's fertility compared to the rest of the world and the different fertilities within Israel. We'll then peek at the current small baby boom happening before looking at the forecasted Israeli Jewish population tsunami. I'll close with a few suggestions for countries that are busy leaping off the demographic cliff. This is the state of Israel, the world's only Jewish majority state. Its fertility trends and projections are unique. It also offers the world hope that if they align everything just right, countries can be saved from the forthcoming worldwide demographic collapse. A country's fertility is usually measured by the number of children the average woman in that country will have during her lifetime. This is termed the total fertility rate, or TFR. Here, for instance, are the fertility rates for OECD countries, which are the most economically developed countries in the world. In a bid to compare apples with apples, it makes sense to compare Israel, which is considered highly developed countries, with other similar developed countries. Hence, an OECD comparison. This red horizontal line is the critical 2.1 children fertility threshold. This is the replacement fertility rate for developed countries. Above this line, developed countries have naturally increasing populations. Any country whose women are having less than 2.1 children each on average is a country on track to naturally decline with each generation, at least once their previous growth momentum has ceased. The lower a country's fertility is below this line, the faster that country's population is busy leaping off the demographic cliff, barring factors such as immigration. As you see, almost all of the OECD countries' fertility rates are below the replacement level. Indeed, most continue to decline even further downward each year. Almost all countries except for one, Israel there in orange on the left. The reasons for Israel's current high fertility are imperfectly understood. However, most demographers point to cultural reasons amongst the Jewish population sector. These include numerous pro-natalist cultural expectations, a frontier mentality, as well as subconscious trauma echoes from the Holocaust. Like many developed countries, the Israeli government has quite a number of family-friendly policies, including financial assistance and parenting leave provisions. Notably, Israel, unlike most countries, provides free IVF for a family's first two children. The religious influence is also noticeable, not because the Orthodox Jews are in the majority, but because they set the tone for what is considered a normal-sized family. Even secular Jews, when surveyed, respond on average that their ideal number of children is over 3. This is a full child more than the hoped-for family size amongst those surveyed in most Western countries. Lastly, Israelis can generally depend on help from both extended family and Israeli society at large. The religious influence is also noticeable, not because Orthodox Jews are in the majority, but because they set the tone for what is considered a normal-sized family. Even secular Israelis, when surveyed, respond on average that their ideal number of children is over 3. This is a full child more than the hoped-for family size amongst those surveyed in most Western countries. Lastly, Israelis can generally depend on help from both extended family and Israeli society at large. It is said that it takes a village to raise a child, and in Israel, extended family, government and society at large all come together to make it normal for Israelis to want and expect large families. I'll give you a personal example. My wife and I were at the Western Wall in a huge crowd of over 50,000 other Jews. A complete stranger handed my wife her newborn infant and with barely a word went off to use the bathrooms. She did so secure in the knowledge that my wife and her baby will still be there when she returns. Where else could this happen? Israeli society often functions as one extended, caring family, and this makes a huge difference. So Israel currently has a pretty good birth rate, well above replacement. But what about the future? After all, even Israel's great fertility has, on average, been dropping a little, albeit slowly over the last few decades. It is now down to a mere 2.86 children per woman, as shown in this graph, still well above replacement, but generally falling over the last decade. Now, if Israel were destined to just follow the rest of the world in plunging off the demographic cliff, albeit at a slower pace, it would still be worth examining. Anything to be the last country to plunge off the birth gap cliff rather than the first. However, that is not what is forecast. Israeli fertility is probably going to rise. You see, not all population segments within Israel have the same fertility trends. Some parts of the Israeli population are dragging down the average number of children, while others not so much. A closer look will reveal stark differences within the Israeli population. Here are the fascinating fertility rates of Jews and Muslims in Israel, with the graph readjusted to show from 0 to 5 children. As you can see, the Jewish fertility rate, while bouncing around a little, has overall been trending slowly upwards. On the other hand, Muslim fertility rates, still well above replacement, have been falling consistently over the last 25 years, copying world fertility trends. The Muslim and Jewish fertility lines crossed about 6 years ago and have been growing further apart ever since. Indeed, the Jewish sector is the only part of the Israeli population whose fertility has been trending up. Besides the Arab population, all the non-Jewish Israeli minority groups have fallen below replacement and continue to decline. Speaking of which, have a look at this 2024 surprising feature, a small but noticeable uptick in Jewish fertility rates in the middle of Israel's war with Gaza, as well as on 6 other war fronts. A year where many had predicted a fertility fall due to war concerns. Instead, in 2024, numerous Jewish Israelis made a conscious decision to either start a family or have another child. And this conscious decision came in the wake of the October 7, 2023 tragedy. Large numbers of young, mainly secular and traditional Israeli women and their partners decided to have more children. Yes, in the middle of minor daily challenges such as rocket fire, runs to the bomb shelters, and either serving in the military or worrying about their husbands at the front, and often where the next paycheck will come from. Now you might ask, hang on a second, a baby boom is not exactly unknown in history. Some countries, notably after the Second World War, have had baby booms. The unusual difference here is that this mini boom by Jewish Israelis is happening during a war, not after one. Also interesting is that this fertility uptick is not universal across Israeli society. Non-Jewish Israelis, on average, did not statistically feel the sudden need to have more kids. Okay, so that was 2024. Those following Israeli demographics will naturally wonder if this mini-boom is continuing. Is it only a momentary blip, or will it continue through 2025? At the time of writing, we only have statistics for the first half of 2025, but thus far it is looking quite likely. Indeed, for the first 6 months of 2025, Jewish birth rates year on year have risen a little over and above even 2024's first half of the year increase. The mini Jewish baby boom thus far continues. Muslim and Christian Arabs also continue to trend ever so slowly downwards in the opposite direction. For those that find the concept of fertility rates a little obscure, here is another way of visualizing Israeli population growth. Here are the numbers of actual births for each of the last 25 years by population sector. As you see, the Jewish blue line at the top is generally trending upwards, while Muslim birth rates each year have, more or less, held steady in absolute terms, even as the total Muslim population has grown. In other words, more Muslim Israelis are having less children each. Other minorities, by the way, are small, and their birth rates barely register on this graph. But wait, I hear you ask, before we get into the exciting demographic projections, you know, the forthcoming Jewish-Israeli tsunami mentioned in the video title, what about the Palestinian Authority, administered territories and Gaza? Surely these should get at least a mention, a graph or two perhaps? My somewhat feisty answer is that unlike the robust population data collection by Israel, The population statistics published by the Palestinian Authority and those from Gaza are, how to put it, charitably I'll call them far too unreliable. Uncharitably, I would have to suggest they rate as wishful thinking sprinkled with pixie dust. Some might consider 145-year-old great-grandmothers still officially alive for her family to collect refugee stipends to be problematic. Apparently, in the PA territories, no one officially immigrates, few who die are crossed off the population register, overseas residents are still counted, Jerusalem residents are double counted, and so forth. I have included a great link in the video notes in case anyone wants to deep dive into this matter. Basically, when there are remotely reliable statistics, I'll be happy to include them in a future presentation. Another related topic is the subject of immigration patterns. No, Israel is not about to be depopulated due to mass immigration. Israel has always had both immigrants and emigrants. If you look at the actual numbers, despite rising Israeli immigration over the last 3 years or so, at this point, Israel still receives more immigrants moving to Israel than those Israeli residents immigrating. What is really happening is that generally lower fertility population segments are leaving and are being replaced, in the main, by higher fertility immigrants. While there is no breakdown available on which Israelis are immigrating permanently, anecdotally, they are likely to be mostly those secular Israelis whose fertility is way below replacement. In addition, some are Arabs. Arabs tend to survey as wishing to immigrate at far higher rates than non-Arab Israelis. Those that are immigrating to Israel, on the other hand, especially since October 7, 2023, tend to be Jewish, often observant, and on average likely to be above replacement fertility. While there is much talk about how this affects Israel economically, demographically speaking, Israel's fertility, and especially its Jewish fertility, is likely being bolstered even further by current migration replacement patterns. Projecting the demographic future of Israel. Behold the graph of Israel's projected demographic future. In red we have the Arab sector, in yellow we have all the non-Haredi Jews lumped together, which includes all manner of secular, modern Orthodox and traditional Jews. While in blue are the forecasts for the Haredi or strictly Orthodox Jewish sector. In the science of demography, we can predict with some precision what children will be born over the next generation or two, because the future parents of those generations have already been born. Israeli Jews are projected to increase by over 50% in a single generation, 100% in two. Barring a massive defection rate amongst future Haredi children, something that is currently simply not happening, that soaring blue line forecasting Haredi population numbers, plus the still rapidly increasing yellow line of the non-Haredim, adds together to a Jewish tsunami. A growth that most countries grappling with their plummeting fertility rates and aging societies can but look on with some degree of envy. Though starting from a relatively small base, 10 million inhabitants is not huge after all, Israel is nevertheless set to double its population by 2065, the vast majority of the increase being in its Jewish population. Israeli Jewish women, no matter what their level of religious observance might be, and especially secular Israelis, have on average been swimming against the rest of the world. Everywhere else, and I mean everywhere, the three horsemen of the demographic apocalypse, namely urbanization, female education, and rising income levels, directly correlate to plummeting fertility. From India to Iceland, from China to Chile, these three factors herald demographic disaster. In Israel, despite being one of the most urbanized societies on earth, with rising income levels and Israeli women being amongst the most educated in the world, Israeli Jews are swimming against the world's trends. Its modest demographic tsunami is already baked in. Many have speculated why Israelis, even non-Haredi Jews, have been resistant to the demographic collapse happening to basically the rest of the world. Even countries in sub-Saharan Africa, many of whom still have above replacement fertility, are declining, sometimes very rapidly. They just haven't made the demographic transition yet. Israel represents hope that the demographic plunge is not inevitable. The trick seems to be to establish a holistic ecosystem that encourages early marriages and childbirth. When women grow up with children all around them, see all their friends not waiting until they are financially secure, but rather are marrying early, when they are part of a community that encourages this early marriage, then young women will hopefully consider that marriage and children are simply the natural human condition. Grandparents, like in Israel, should invest in their grandchildren with wealth transfers during their lifetimes, particularly for housing. Governments should continue to modestly assist with parental leave, child allowances, tax incentives, and, as happens in Israel, free IVF. It is indeed interesting to note that in Israel, a huge 5% of all children are born via IVF. Most of all, when children are given a hope for a brighter future, then they will want to bring children into the world. It is no coincidence that Israelis consistently poll as being one of the happiest people on earth despite wars and invasions. Get your young people out of downtown cities and into suburbia with single dwelling houses and space for the children to run free. Jews, as Malcolm Collins likes to call us, are urban survival specialists. But especially for everybody else, it's suburbia and not the megacities with small apartments that might save you. Israel shows that it can be done. There is indeed hope against countries and entire people basically disappearing. But of course, no one said it would be easy. Thank you for watching this, my first original content YouTube presentation project. Comments, both encouraging and, yes, constructive criticism, are welcome. If you would like me to delve deeper into future subjects such as Israel, its people and politics and history, worldwide Jewish demographics, Jewish history, Orthodox Judaism, or any of the points briefly raised or should have been raised in this presentation, I am interested in hearing from you. Please upvote this video if you like the contents, and once again, thank you for watching.